PCB. I'm still breathing, I'm still up in the system that's so corrupt. That's how it is in America. That's how it is in America. I'm still breathing, I'm still up in the system that's so corrupt. That's how it is in America. That's how it is in America. I speak the language of the revolutionaries. Knock them like by any means necessary. I'm black and proud, I got the spirit of a singer. I'm Nat Turner poking out his middle finger. See, in my former life, I was by the seal. Strapped up, finger gripping on the steel. I send them chills through your spine when I rhyme. I was sent to heal the deaf, dumb, and blind. Now you can see the signs on the back of the dollar. The eye of Ra shining bright, so come and follow. I'm a scholar in the temple of a set. Holly green lotus tatted on my chest. I conquer death with the staff of Anubis. Bumble clock, bust a shot to kill Judas. You see the system, it ain't meant for us to rise. And yeah, the history is just a bunch of lies. I'm still breathing, I'm still up in the system that's so corrupt. That's how it is in America. That's how it is in America. I'm still breathing, I'm still up in the system that's so corrupt. That's how it is in America. That's how it is in America. Flashing like a mug in my kente. I got mud cloth draped around my gym bed. And yeah, we play it till our hands full of calluses. I came to prove it wrong when they say we're powerless. Let me teach the black youth where their power is. Let's transform the projects into palaces. The black Madonna on the mantle came first. The black Christ is on the lap, the black birth. I spit the real facts, you ain't gotta search. I got the quench full of truth for your thirst. Let's pick the White House, red, black, and green. Don't be a nigga black man, be a king. Don't be a ever black woman, be a queen. I am the prophecy of Dr. King's dream. Hey, young man, you ain't gotta sip the lean. They trying to turn the ghetto kids into fiends. I'm still breathing, I'm still up in the system that's so corrupt. That's how it is in America. That's how it is in America. I'm still breathing, I'm still up in the system that's so corrupt. That's how it is in America. That's how it is in America.
I see some of y'all okay with it. Wait your chance dancing, the crack of rain and bathing. Wash your hand 10,000 times, still got blood on. Sharks can smell it way from the 9 to 5 to drug calls. Hearts invested, look for a kickback that ain't showing up. See the jits them pouring up. Quick tell them they paying sag but can't change when they growing up. Get mad when they peep gang, call them insane when they blowing up. Lil' mama just old shooting, he old doing Sean going up. And y'all haters supposed to bear witness. They ain't studying your forgiveness. Best to balance their wishes for your name and up on their hit list. They hit the sign, they can't turn it down. To air town, front to the ground. Don't steal around, restore the crime. That's the way the thing going down. You full aggression, funeral processions. Murder's the answer without questions. Ass, I'm through stressing. Use it as a lesson. Turn your ancestors into a weapon.
I'm still breathing, I'm still up in the system that's so corrupt. That's how it is in America. That's how it is in America. I'm still breathing, I'm still up in the system that's so corrupt. That's how it is in America. That's how it is in America.
Peace, peace, peace. Peace and Black Power family. Welcome to another episode of Do Knowledge Radio. Place where knowledge is born. This is your host, Knowledge One a Lot, and we are here to discuss African liberation series, and the research question that is here and that is looming is, are we preparing for battle? For battle? Or are we waiting for another battle? So I've been seeing a lot of these versus battles, as they have been termed. I've been seeing a lot of people flocking towards these battles. So this is a research question for the Africans that are here and for the Africans that are listening. This is not shared in a lot of places. This is on YouTube. This is in the Do the Knowledge Radio group and Knowledge One a Lot page. Didn't want a bunch of people coming here playing. So this message will be out there, and hopefully those liberators who aren't playing, who aren't waiting for another versus battle, are preparing for battle. Are we preparing for battle? This is Liberation Talk. This is African Liberation Series. The goal is African liberation. The goal is the destruction and the decimation of all of our enemies, foreign and domestic, internal and external. So we're talking about battle. We are not talking about entertainment. Even though there are some that are in these ranks that purport to be about the liberation and salvation of black people who are entertaining. They are not entertainers. And there are some who purport to be revolutionaries, but they are entertainers. We have to be able to distinguish one from another. And we must begin to withdraw our economic and social support of these entertainers. They can go entertain someplace else. They can go clown someplace else. They can go be the provocateurs that they are someplace else. Are we preparing for battle? So before I get into anything, let me start in proper order and humbly request that our warrior divine ancestors be present during this proceedings and inspire our hearts towards insurrection, inspire our minds towards insurrection, inspire our beings towards insurrection. And I'm going to read from this book, In Your Outside Center, a calendar of revolutionary daily thoughts by a Jingle living ancestor, Dr. Baba and Wale Kebamani Baruti. And we're on the 24th of May, 2020. And there's a question that is here. How long have I been living in hell for heaven? How long have I been living in hell for heaven? And that's a question by Margaret Walker. Let's get into Barbara's explanation. Most severely abused children honestly believe that their parents actually love them. In their desperate attempts to bring out the love in those who should naturally love them, many even actively seek this abuse in an effort to gain any form of attention from them. Having confused love and hate, most adults abused by their spouses or mates operate in the same way. It is no different for mental-suicidal Africans at the hands of Europeans. In all these cases, the contradiction is blatantly evident. Love of parents and compliments is very distinct from hate. You do not abuse people you truly love. And applying the European psychobabble that abuse of significant others is caused by an absence of love of self is irrelevant. That's the same oppressor loving logic that says the enslavers who beat and butchered our ancestors suffered as much as their victims. On a menticidal, only a menticidal slave would prefer his/her pain over that self-serving attributed to his or her/enslavers. Only a masochist feels for his or her torturer. In our oppressor-loving menticide, we are supposed to feel sympathy for the judge who sentenced one of our sisters to prison because she is having personal problems. I doubt if the sister held captive would care. We are supposed to pity the rednecks who lynch our brothers from trees, the backs of pickup trucks, and in prison cells because their level of intelligence keeps them from getting whatever jobs we have. Our concern should be for the victim, not the victimizer. It should be with us, not them. The affirmation states, I generously give love to my family. The affirmation states, I generally give love to my family. The affirmation states, I generously give love to my family. So, with this affirmation, we are looking now at this question: do we or have we been generous with our love for our families? And if we are, let's answer this other question. Are we preparing for battle? Let's get into that. Let's get into that. The victimized. Are the victimized? Are the oppressed? Are the downtrodden? Are the dispossessed African people preparing for battle? Let's look at what battle is, how it's defined here. A sustained fight between large organized armed forces. This is battle, fight, conflict, clash, struggle, skirmish, fight or struggle tenaciously to achieve or resist something. What are we resisting? What are we resisting? What are we seeking tenaciously to achieve? These are questions. And in that, it should be in our preparation. It is said you could win the battle and lose the war. A battle is a combat between two or more armed forces. Battles are between soldiers, while wars between countries or nations. Are we preparing for battle? We are at war. We are a nation at war. We are a nation that has been at war for thousands of years. We are a nation that has been at war for thousands of years. We're looking at our battle plan. We're looking at our battle strategy. In this place, Student Knowledge Radio has given you tools to equip yourself in your preparation for battle. Almost 6 years now, we've given Black Survival training, Black Survival Die class. We had people who have come through here and taught us about agriculture. We had people who have come through here and taught us about spirituality. We had people who come through here and taught us about science, the science of self, knowledge of self, the psychology, and all of these things that are connected to our being and development in preparation for battle. We have given resources, we have given tools, we have given tutelage, we have given time and effort in preparation for battle. We have oriented the psyche, we have restructured and realigned the African mind toward insurrection, towards self defense, towards victory, towards success on the battlefield. We have brought people in from all different spiritual inclinations and political affiliations with the benefits that are here. Are we preparing for battle? Are we physically preparing for battle? Are we mentally preparing for battle? Are we emotionally preparing for battle? Are we spiritually preparing for battle? For those who operate in the realm of spirituality, are you spiritually prepared? Are you using your spiritual talents and gifts? Are you using and utilizing the weapons at your disposal for the benefit of our people, for the liberation and salvation of our people and the death and destruction of our enemies? Are we that spiritually connected to that universal mind force that enables us to have that power, to tap into that power, to tap into source, to bring about the liberation and salvation of our people? Are we spiritually there? Are we spiritually connected to that source? Are we accessing that source code? Are we accessing our ancestral wisdom? Are we utilizing our ancestral army? Or are we only using it for self-grandizement and self-gratification? Are we reestablishing this connection and bond ancestrally for aggrandizement? Are we reestablishing those connections and bonds? Are we feeding our ancestors? Are we venerating and uplifting our ancestors for success in battle? For success in battle, for the liberation and salvation of our future generations. And for those who are physically training, are you physically training and preparing your body to be a weapon for the liberation and salvation of African people? Or you just going to get a six pack? Are you working out for your own fitness and your own well being? Are we dealing in the realm of individuality versus collectivism? Let's have that battle. Let's have that versus battle. Let's hype up that. Let's go tell a million Africans that we're having a versus battle. Individuality versus collectivism. That's the versus battle I want to see. I want to see individualism eradicated from the African psyche and be replaced with African collectivism. Let's go to that versus battle. What are we training for? What are we uniformly aligning for? What are our interests? What are our aims? What are our goals? What are our objectives? Otherwise, we have nothing to discuss. We have nothing to discuss. We have found a way to virtually party, but not virtually prepare. We have found a way to virtually party, but not to virtually prepare. Our party is a well-organized militia group that is here for the self-defense and the self-preservation and the sanctity of the African family. That's our party. So that's our party politics. That's our party politics. Our party politics is in preparation for a battle. That's what it's for. That's what it's for confrontation, for eradication, for elimination. This is why our party is formed. What we're looking to party. In the words of Baba Baba Yodun Oyewale, party and bullshit. Party and bullshit. Because we're not partying with a purpose. We are not come together for a purpose or on purpose for the purpose of liberation and salvation. We have come together to eradicate one another. These are our goals and aims and objectives. We come together. We wish, like the comedian Cedric the Entertainer said, we wish. We said we wish a motherfucker would. And that motherfucker is not our enemy. It's somebody who looks just like us. Just like us. So we're committing menticide, we're committing homicide, we're committing fratricide, we're committing genocide on ourselves. So we're prepared and trained for battle to go against ourselves with no thought of our enemy whatsoever. With no thought of our enemies whatsoever. So we're being reactionary to white speech. We are supposed to be preparing for confrontation with our enemy, not reacting to what the fuck our enemy has to say. I don't give a fuck what no cracker got to say out of his mouth or her mouth. We are here at this distinct time in our story to be the ones, to be the catalyst for insurrection, eradication, and destruction of our enemies, foreign and domestic, internal and external. Not reacting. Not reacting. An appropriate response is not a reaction. An appropriate response to a threat in the tyranny and oppression of our people, the subjugation and disrespect of African women, the destruction of African children, and the eradication of the African man. This is where our priorities are supposed to be. Are we preparing for battle? Who are our enemies? Who are our enemies? Who are our enemies? So this is what we're dealing with in this regard. We're not dealing with this game. We're not playing this fucking game out here. This is some kind of game to you to be, looking at these battles and you're desensitizing the word battle. Battles happen in war between warring nations and countries, and we are on the battlefield for our future, for our survival. This is why we have the Black Survivor Die class. We are orienting the mind back to self-reliance and preparation for battle, preparation for self-defense, preparation for eradication of our enemy. We are no longer in tune with nature. We have become unnatural. So now nature, Mother Nature, is warring with us to get us back in line with the natural order of things. We are not in line with the natural order of the divine. We are not in line with the natural order of our ancestral lineage. We are not befitting ambassadors to our ancestral line, to those universal principles, to those forces of nature, to that divine creator family that we come from. We are no longer in tune. We are out of sync. We are out of touch. We have been amalgamated. We have been assimilated. We have been integrated. We have been grafted into unalike. Unlike we have ever been in the history of our existence. We are other than self. We are other than self. And we have developed an appetite. We have developed a addictive inclination towards our destruction. And we wallow in it. And we relish it. And we can't wait to have another fix. And we are fixated on the high of the mind that exists within the turmoil that exists within us. So we are fighting to die, not fighting to live. We have never been in a position like this where we know we don't even live. We simply wait to transition, numb to the existence of life. Life means nothing to us. Life means nothing to us. We are not in the space within ourselves in this preparation for battle where we're warring with ourselves to eradicate ourselves, to excuse us from battle. We're fighting within ourselves to excuse ourselves from battle. So this is the situation where we find ourselves. We find ourselves on opposite sides of the battlefield and exterminating ourselves before we even get there. So we can recuse ourselves from fighting. We can recuse ourselves from living. We can recuse ourselves for valuing African life. Because if we valued African life, when something happens that interrupts African life, we would be on the battlefield without question. And whomever was responsible would be held accountable in the most painful and gruesome manner. This is warfare. This is the kind of battle. Not these damn versus battles that I done seen. I done seen what versus battle is there? It's us versus the world. And they're fighting. They're fighting. They're waging war. They are occupying communities. They are occupying where we live. They're occupying on levels of government in every facet of the 9 areas of people activity. All of our enemies have us encircled. And we're still trying to find a way to make an enemy out of one another. Those who affirm and live in African life, and those who are in tune and in center and in focus with the African lifestyle, anything contrary to African life is enemy to African people. You're telling me that are people that are already being slaughtered wholesale can participate in something that is anti-life and still be with us. That's not how the shit works. It's not how it works. We are face to face with an enemy that we have to fight through ourselves in order to eradicate. This cowardness, this disunity, these disheartening remarks, the psychology of a sucker, of a coward, has to be eradicated. This is contrary to African life. We don't come from no cowards. And I'm talking to African people. So if you don't identify as an African, this is not your conversation. Go talk to your people about battle and have them be prepared for battle and for war. So if you don't identify, this is not the fucking conversation for you. This is for African people. This is African Liberation Series. It's got no goddamn room for nobody else with none of this shit. So if you have not unified and identified with that, you don't qualify in this conversation. Take your ass on with your people, whoever they are. So when you approach ours, understand that we have been preparing for battle our entire life. We've been preparing for battle our entire life, and we will take your life in defense of our life, in the lives of our family, in the lives of African women and children. We will take your fucking life with no hesitation on every level, whatever that means for you. If you present yourself as an enemy to African people, you will be eradicated. Simple. Real simple. Very simple. So in preparation for battle, these are the things that we have to be prepared for. Economically, socially, mentally, physically, all of it, with all of the forces that are in. We can no longer allow African women to be disrespected, to be put on display, for these eunuchs to be disrespecting them. We must deal with them appropriately. The eunuchs internally and the eunuchs externally. We must be the safeguards. We must be the vanguard force for African people, for the African family, for our African future. And that's not for everybody. That's a select group of brothers and sisters that is ready to do that work, that have been training, who should be supported by the collective. You want a fighting force, a liberating force that'll work for you tirelessly, that will take lives for you and give their life in your defense. That support system has to be in place. So in this preparation, we have to identify our support elements. Us versus our enemies. In order for us to be victorious, we have to fight the hardest and the longest. So now we're looking at that landscape, at that scope of the battlefield in a whole nother situation. Whatever this population that exists, that is here in the Americas, 40 million of us, 40 million, 41 million, 3 million should be your fighting force that is supported by the other 38 million. 3 million. Are you looking? Can you fathom that in your mind? A military that is trained, 3 million strong, that is supported by 38 other million. That's 41 million. These kinds of conversations, these kinds of situations, these types of injustices that we envision in our minds to no end will be eradicated and eliminated. Anyone who is in violation of our African future would be eradicated. These are simple. This is very, very simple. Things change. The landscape change. The concepts change. This thing that we have going on with this entertainment is taking us out of the fold in the scope of what our priorities are. For those who have a vested interest amongst us for our liberation, for our salvation, for our sovereignty, and for the decimation of our enemies, for services rendered. So if we aren't having these types of strategic planning sessions, we are not serious about our liberation. So when we look at this African liberation series, these are the things that are going to be challenged. These are the things that are going to be brought to the forefront. Are we preparing for victory? Forget battle alone. Are we preparing for victory? Are we preparing for post-victory? Have we thought in our mind what's going to happen after we win? Are provisions in place for after? This is the type of situation and the type of strategic planning sessions that we need to have. The organizations and the think tanks. If you're a part of an organization and in their mission statement they don't have a plan for actual victory, you better run. Or you be the one to bring that question to the table. This is how you know if you're dealing in something that is real or intangible, or you're dealing in something that has fluff. I love Baba Baruti. Where's your African program? Where's your African purpose? African purpose and program. Ask yourself that question. Are you in organizations? Are you organized with people? And do they have a goal for your liberation and salvation? Do they have a plan? Do they have a purpose? So indiscriminate of your spiritual inclination, if you identify as an African person, what is your African purpose? What is your African aim, goal, and objective? And if it's for liberation, we can unify. We can unify, or we can continue to die. These are the principles. It ain't for everybody to have the same this or the same that, but you do have to have a renewed purpose. Identification with individuality serves no one any good in an African society. The collective of an African society functions optimally when it works in tandem and in harmony with one another. Individuality breeds discontent, breeds dissatisfaction, and these are the weapons that are used and have been used by all of our enemies to cause dissension in the ranks. A whisper into the heart and into the mind of African people to have us engage in a menticidal, fratricidal, homicidal, and suicidal war with one another. And as long as we are at war with one another, everybody else on the planet continues to thrive. All of those fucking bloodsuckers all over the planet. All of those leeches, all of those tapeworms that are sucking the blood of African people because we are in turmoil in at war with one another. Think about that. Think about that. All of these vices and devices, all of these things that we have, these creature comforts that give us so much solace and ability to connect and communicate with each other virtually, these all are vices that become divisive tools. African liberation versus the world. Where's that battle? The world is thriving off of Africa. The world is thriving off of African people. It is sucking the blood from African people in a vampiric type of manner. And in the words of Baba Mukasa Briggs, if Africa is not free, we can never be free. We can never be free as long as Africa is not free. The landmass, the mentality, the people, the psychology. We have to get out of the realm of fantasy island. It sounds nice to pontificate. This is mud work. This is root work. From the capstone to the foundation, built from the top down. This liberation strategy. Not from the ground up, from the top down. So we need to look at this in an honorable and a sacred manner. What does this mean to you? What does liberation mean to you? And if we're on the team and we're looking at our teammates in the eye, we will decide how bad we want to win. Just not for points on the scoreboard. This is for a liberated future for our next 10 generations. So they would never have to suffer these emotional, psychological, mental, and physical atrocities that we have suffered. This is where we are in preparation for battle. This is where we are within the realm of ourselves. So let me get something to read really quick from Blood in My Eye. Page 81. When we meet resistance, should we acquiesce, withdraw, wait it out, or intensify? This is a question. When we meet resistance, okay, with any goal that you set forth, you're going to be met with resistance. So when we're looking at this resistance, what does this resistance do for you? Does this resistance put so much pressure on you that you fold, that you wash out, that you withdraw? Or does this resistance make you intensify? Are we looking to acquiesce? We've done it. We've acquiesced already. Withdrew. We've done it already. Waited out. We've done it already. The only thing we could do when we're met with resistance is intensify. That's how you know you're getting somebody's fucking attention. So when you're dealing with this intensified type of situation, you are prepared to deal with everything that comes along with it. Should we meet violent reaction with a more determined violence? I know that word scares you. That word scares you, but you can show up to an entertainment battle. That's warfare. That's warfare. That's intellectual warfare. They are battling for a victor. You could watch that. You could laugh at it. You could joke at it. Wow, brothers and sisters are being killed in the street. And then you don't want to march onto the location and eradicate. You want to demonstrate. You want to protest. When we meet resistance, should we acquiesce, withdraw, wait it out, or intensify? Should we meet violent reaction with a more determined violence? The type that puts 80 tanks to flight in Laos. So, in response to the death and devastation of our people, we have organizations that mobilize and move on it. That's intensified. And that's a fear unalike. Just look in your mind. 20,000 black people, African people showing up to a location ready for battle. Not with protest signs, with rifles. Who won't be able to jog? So understand, as long as this reaction is not met with an appropriate response, a more determined type of violence, What the hell happened in Laos? What kind of people was in Laos that 80 tanks had to balance? In other words, if the fascists don't like what we're doing and attack us through a lynch mob, the police forces and judicial branches of government, should we relent or should we accept their violence? Reaction as a natural response to our challenge and organize against it. Every step, every stage towards a unified black commune will meet great resistance. Us coming together will be met with great resistance. Every time we are sought to organize together, to come together, this resistance comes into play. This resistance will come in some form of violence. Every time we come together, it's met with some violence. And in the study of the art of peace, when one attacks, they violate the natural order of the universe. So you are duty bound to use whatever is necessary, whatever is presented to you to bring that back into balance. If self-preservation is the first law of nature, there's no such thing as violence. If self-preservation is the first law of nature, you are violating that order of the universe. When you don't defend yourself, when we can be slaughtered and you take to the streets with signs. You take to the streets with signs. With bullhorns. You are in violation of the natural order of existence in life. You are in violation of the commandment of God. You're in violation of all that is sacred and holy. To bring about balance, to bring about reciprocity to this situation, to bring about order into this situation. I tell you, the spin doctors from this type of war are crazy. I was in Baghdad, and one of the people got killed that I was with. And we found out who was responsible. And the day of the memorial service, since we're going into Memorial Day tomorrow, the day of the memorial service, we went and eradicated the person that was responsible. And the high up told us to make sure that we back in time for the memorial service. So we went out the wire, went and go did what we had to do and got back in time, just in time for the memorial service. And we saw the mother of the son who got killed. And she was crying a big boo-hoo cry. She was wailing. And higher up, he went to the microphone and he told her, I don't know if this is any solace for you, but today, the person that was responsible for your son's death was found and eliminated. These men was responsible. And she went from that boo-hoo wailing cry to the most serene type of space you could ever imagine. Like it was on command. Like a hypnotist called, like you called someone out of a trance. and she looked at us and said, "Thank you." That kind of response to justice in her eyes. Where is the justice for our people? We say stuff like that won't bring them back. We need to find another way. Doing this will make us no different than them. That's all chump talk. That is all chump talk. And the trust that is entrusted to you to guard and preserve the sanctity of the African life, the sanctity of the African mother, the sister, the aunt, the niece, the daughter, the children. For you to look in the mirror and not see a liberator, but to see some kind of coward with that coward ass talk. You're not worthy of your life. Either you fight for your life or you don't deserve to have it. So in regards to this coming together, being met with resistance, are we prepared for the tests and the trials that come along with being prepared for battle? The psychological repair that's necessary, the emotional repair that is necessary, that reconciliation, that resurgence of the African mind that's necessary, that type of situation. For those who deal in finance and economics, if that's your plan and your goal and this your contribution, that's your contribution. For those who are astute in the realm of agriculture, and this is your contribution, that's your contribution. For those who are spiritually inclined and have that as a primary objective of their contribution, this is their contribution. And for those who the realm of warriorhood, that is our contribution. We don't have the mind of these other great minds that exist. We have a mind for bloodshed. We have a mind for eradication. We have a mind for an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, a limb for a limb, a life for a life, a head for a head. We have that mind. Just as these other war efforts and actualities and contributions need to be supported. The war effort for those warriors who have answered that call to be in the defense of African people. Those war efforts have to be supported. Not these entertainers, not these cowards, these rats, these provocateurs, these snitches that y'all love so goddamn much. Y'all love them. I swear. The real ones. The real ones who are out here. The real ones who have been training, who train daily. The ones who are doing drills. The ones who were, when natural infirmities take place, they are on the scene. Not marching. Laying down the law or saving someone's life. For those who are in need of your support. Those liberators who are actually doing the work. Not painting you some fucking fantasy every time you see them on. The real liberation, the real war effort, those real warriors who are out here daily that need your support. Those ones that are training up our future generations, who are giving them African-centered tools, to give them an African-centered worldview, who are educating them properly daily, they need your support. So just like the warriors need those weapons of war, our youth need to be empowered with that African-centered mind, that African-centered education to be the future soldiers for liberation. So all of these things have a facet, and they all play a vital role in our existence and our survival. African-centered education, African-centered agriculture, African-centered spiritual systems, and African-centered strategic warfare. So you got all of these aspects that are out here, and then you have a decision to make. You have a decision to make. You have an oath to take to your people, to your ancestors, to those forces of nature, and to your creator. You have an oath. You have a covenant. You have a bond. You have a connection. You are duty bound in whatever facet that manifests as in the physical world to continue to fight and continue to eradicate and continue to liberate our people and your children's children's children, to protect the sanctity of the African future. To protect the sanctity of the African family, you are duty bound. This is why you have breath. This is why you are here. This is your purpose, and this is your program, and this is your platform. This is why you have breath. Not to be sitting in these goddamn versus battles and they be like, oh, knowledge, we always got something to say about something. Yes, we do. We got something to say about something. If this entertainment don't lead to liberation, what the fuck do you have the entertainment for? We dance, we party, we celebrate together after success on the battlefield. And in preparation for warfare, I understand that the need that is there. But in the midst of this celebration, are we preparing for the eradication of our enemies? Are we preparing for battle? Are we using these tools that are at our disposal? Are we using these weapons of opportunity for the protection of our women, the protection of our children, the protection of our people, our elderly? Are we using this for the benefit and the glory and the upliftment of our ancestors? They deserve some reverence. And they deserve some blood to be shed in their honor. All of these unarmed brothers and sisters that have met their demise by these beasts deserve some blood to be shed on their behalf. And if you are not equipped, if you are not willing and able to be a progenitor or a sustaining force, we are not in need of your services. So if you're not going to support the war effort or participate in the war effort, you might as well go with them. Don't need to be amongst us. So this ain't for the soft-hearted. This ain't for the faint-hearted. This is African Liberation Series, and we're dealing with the real. Are we preparing for battle? Are we preparing for victory? Do we have a plan post-victory? And I'll be back next Sunday. BB48, BB Tune, Black Power, Black Love. I love you, only African people. And let's continue to rise.